welcome Aaron to the show. I'm really grateful for you being here because I've been watching your progress silently and I've always been a big admirer. As you can see, I'm a beard guy myself. So when I see people that look like me supporting the culture, I definitely got to talk to you. Let's start off by talking about who you are, what Aaron Wallace Grooming is, and yeah, we'll start there.
Cool. So Aaron Wallace Grooming, we are a hair and skincare company created especially for the needs of Black men. We always keep the needs of Black men with Afro hair types, melanated skin at the forefront of all of our product development. So we're trying to service all of the grooming needs for Black men. And that's kind of our North Star in terms of our products.
Before we even really start talking about some of your top achievements to date, how did you go past that thing where you've probably seen a lot of other beard grooming products and you thought maybe I can do something better? What made you actually decide to go out there and do it?
So my story, I actually began as a barber. So I had a barbershop in Southeast in Croydon, and it was generally just through cutting every day and speaking directly with Black men every day that, I mean, as their barber, you're also like their hair doctor. So whenever a man has questions about his beard, or he's like, you know, my beard, I'm trying to get my beard to grow fuller, or my beard is patchy, or my hair's receding, or any of these kind of questions, the barber's usually the first person that they go to. So every day I would be having conversations about grooming with men, as well as a whole bunch of other things. And I felt that, one, as their barber, I should be in the best position to offer them a solution to these problems that I'm hearing every day. And two, I was finding it difficult to find these products myself. So when I'm doing my local shopping, I wasn't able to find specific products that were focused on Afro hair. So it kind of got to a point where we'd have these conversations and I'd recommend things that they could use, but then it was like, okay, so where do I get this product from, or where do I go? And at the time, there was Afro hair shops are quite few and far between.
Yeah.
It's like almost a treasure quest, like a treasure hunt. So the first part of the treasure hunt is to find the Afro hair shop to begin with. And then the second part is, once you've found the Afro hair shop, you have to kind of navigate your way through the bundle section, through the section, through all these other sections to find the men's shelf, which is usually like one shelf hidden away at the back. And there's like 2 or 3 different lines of US products. So it was just a whole effort. And I felt that, so the third reason was accessibility. We wanted to create products that were made for Black men and that were easily accessible. And so really, I mean, at the time, it was to service, like the journey began to solve a need that Black men had, to service a need. And then as we kind of went down the road of development and bringing the products to fruition, we realized that, hold on, we're actually the first brand in the UK that's doing this. There's no other brands in the UK that are creating products specifically for Black men. And even the US brands, you might have had like the old school DAX or whatever that are commonly used by Black men, but they're not necessarily created for Black men.
Yeah.
They're kind of created unit across the board. So you'll find loads of like European barbershops also use DAX, which I was quite surprised about.
Wow.
We said, okay, so this is our mission, is to look at Afro hair types, the differences between Afro hair types, the differences between Black skin, melanated skin, and create products that are specifically solving our needs. So at the time, there was beard brands around, but there weren't any beard brands that were for Black men around at the time when we launched. Yeah, it just came from my background being in the barbering industry and wanting to solve that need, and realizing that if I'm suffering from this need and all my customers are suffering from this need, imagine what Black men in Germany are going through. Imagine what Black men in France are going through. It must be even harder for them. So I just started to kind of back of a napkin, doing numbers in my head, and realized there's actually a huge gap here, because even the brands that are out there that are catered to black people, like the Shea Moistures at the time, were largely focused on women as well. So there was nothing that was like, okay, this is for us. Do you know what I mean? This is a natural product. It's a premium, high quality product that you can trust and know that this is like legit. I just think that if you create the best product, then that's your business is selling a product or a service. You've got to make sure it's the best product or service that you're selling. So
it should sell itself, right?
yeah, exactly. And that's half the work done. So if the product, and the main thing is that you want a product that when people use it, they're like, this works. This is it. So if we can do that, and once you've done that, or you think you've done that, you get feedback and you amend and you improve and you just keep improving over time. You look for things to improve on. You be as critical on yourself as you possibly can, so that you can continually improve on the areas that need to be improved on. And that's kind of how we got going with it.
Yeah, and interesting point about that improvement thing, right? So I do a lot of mentoring with businesses, and one of the main things is like just launch, right? You can't even actually improve until your product has been in front of the customer and everything. Yeah. So especially in those early customers, just find someone that really has a problem. And I always say that if someone's really starving, right, like they ain't had food for days, it doesn't matter if you give them a pizza in a carrier bag, put in a box, put it in your hand. If the product is in front of them and they generally have that problem, they're going to take it and you can learn from them. How does it taste? Like, how can I give it to you better? So, and I mean, like we done, so because I had the barbershop, I had access to a lot of men to speak to and kind of help with the development process. So they was really like instrumental in helping me to develop it. Myself, because I worked with hair every day, I could see what I was looking for in the products. Yeah, you're an expert.
I used myself as a guinea pig to test and trial and error until I got it right. And then after that, we done focus groups with black men as well. Black men who are kind of particularly fussy about their hair and their beard grooming. So we done that. So we done as much stages as we could to get the products right. But like you said, until you actually launch and literally go out there to the mass market, the product's never going to be absolutely perfect. You're always going to have to go up, like you develop it as perfect as you can, get it out there to the market. And then once you go to the mass market, you'll get even more feedback from other men.
Yeah.
That no one would have thought of. It's like the unknown start to come in. And that's when you start to make the further modifications and tweaks to get even better from there.
Yeah. So it's funny, like the business game from my angle is actually more about learning than it is just making the money, right? Because it's the learning that allows you to know where to create the value and how to package it and stuff. So speaking the truth to me. I guess the next thing I want to ask, so we've really like understood how you started and how you're able to grow a bit. What would you say have been your top achievements to date, like when looking back?
Top achievements, I would say
too many.
It's not even that. It's just that I'm kind of like a very milestone type person. So like I just kind of think like, what is the next objective? Okay, I need to hit this target. This is the goal that I'm trying to do. Okay, I've done that. What's the next one? What's the next one? What's the next one? So I'm always looking forward rather than back at what the past achievements are. But I do think it is, do you know what? I think it's very important in general to make a note of your past achievements, especially for those times when you do feel down on yourself, because I think every entrepreneur at some point in their journey is going to have points when they think, this isn't going well, or that's not going well. What should I, am I cut out for this, rare, or whatever kind of negative beliefs that we have, subconscious beliefs that we sometimes have. Those are the times it's actually good to have your previous achievements written down, so you can kind of remind yourself like of how far you've actually come. For me, my achievement it's just been like it's all part of one story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like just going from idea in the head to physically manifesting that product. What makes me most proud is when customers come back and say, this product is really great, or I love your product. Like, that's what makes me think yes, because that's why we're here. Do you know what I mean? That's the so when you get feedback, that tells me, okay, that the goal is being achieved. So we're doing, you know. So I mean, like, just in general, I think just going from where I was and getting to where I am now on, you know, a lot of my knowledge in business has been self-taught. And just I made the decision a few years ago that was basically like, how far can you go if you just focus and you just cut out all of the fluff, all of the noise, anything that's distracting? How far can you go if you set yourself a goal and say, this is my goal, I'm going to have laser focus on achieving this goal, and anything that's not helping me in the direction of this goal needs to get just put to the side. How far can I go with that mentality? That's what I'm really proud of. It's just being able to actually do that and get to where I am right now.
So let's actually talk about branding and marketing right now. So you've obviously built a really good following on Instagram as well, and I've seen you've got some good press. How do you even do that? So for someone that's just starting off, right, and they have no idea how to really get their products out there, what was your journey in doing that? Like, what tips could you share?
So firstly, I would say that one of the key things is having a really good team. And I think that's one of the most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur, because when you, as an entrepreneur, very often you're a one-man band and you have to wear loads of different hats. And I always say that you can be a one-man band and you can play the trumpet and the harmonica and the drums and do everything, and you can do it very, very skilled and it can sound great. But if you haven't, a one-man band will never sound as clean as an actual band, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? If you actually have different people on the keys and the guitar, you're always going to get a cleaner sound. So, but you have to play with the cards that you're dealt. So for a very long time, you know, I was just doing my thing, but my co-founder, my business partner, Lena, she has been instrumental on the marketing side. So she's brought a lot of marketing knowledge. So she's been able to kind of take that on as her role in the company. So, and she has a degree in marketing as well. So, whereas my experience in marketing has always been from entrepreneur, self-marketing, self-promotion, kind of getting your name out there type way. Like, she understands a lot more of the PR world, for example.
Yeah.
We work together really well in that we can cover all of the bases. And so when it comes to marketing, one of the first things we did is that, like I said earlier, when I realized that we were the first in the UK creating products for Black men, I said we need to make the world know that. Do you know what I mean?
Like, we've got to know. Yeah.
We need to lead with that, because that's strong. That's like, I was surprised to have that knowledge, but hey, it is what it is. Let's lead with that. Let's let the world know that we are now here. We're the first doing it, and we're out there. Initially, what we did was just reach out to bloggers. Like, we built a list of bloggers, and like, we reached out to loads of bloggers, and at the time no one knew who he was, but someone picked it up, and the blog's name was Mad News, and she picked it up and she tweeted about it, and then from she tweeted about it, it just went insane, and it just went absolutely viral. And so it's a tricky one, because it's very, it's difficult to like you can't just say to someone go viral. Do you know what I mean? It's very like whenever people say, oh, what do you do marketing wise, and I explain how we went viral, it's very difficult to say, yeah, just do that, because it's a bit of good fortune as well, that because I didn't know that we was going to go as viral as we did. We knew that this was our launch date. We knew that we had everything. So I can advise people, have your launch date, get everything in place, get the products to as good a point as you can possibly get them to the standard. Make sure that your website reflects your products and reflects your brand. Make sure that you understand who your target market is, who your audience is, and that all of your communication is speaking to your audience. It's difficult. It's difficult because we just went viral, like we just went out, we just put it out there, and
it's happened.
It just went absolutely insane, and I didn't predict that at all. But I would say having all of your ducks in a row really helps.
I agree with that, right? Because nobody ever knows if they're gonna be viral, but if you're putting yourself in the best position to be marketable anyway, it should go hand in hand. I think everyone focuses on marketing and branding because that's the bit that consumers interact with. That's what we see. We see the followers, we see the press and all that stuff. But there's so many other elements of the business, right? There's finance, there's operations, supply chain. So, in your opinion, what of those other less popular aspects of the business have been so crucial to your success?
Definitely, I would say managing the supply chain. Managing the supply chain is very tricky because you have to make sure that you have a certain amount of stock. You're not overstocked, but then you're not understocked, and that's something that if you don't manage well, it can affect your cash flow. If it affects your cash flow, it's something that has lots of knock-on effects, and it's something that we've been trying to fine-tune as well, because we've been growing much faster than we predicted that we would have grown. We've had a bit of teething problems in making sure that we're always stocked up, and some customers who sign up and they subscribe because they don't want to have to keep coming back every month to replenish, so they just subscribe, so they expect their frequency to come at whatever their frequency date is. However, if you're growing exponentially and then you're out of stock, the people who have subscribed are getting their subscriptions late. They end up getting double or whatever. So we've had those kind of teething issues growing. So managing that has been very important. I would say your marketing, your content creation, your tracking is very key as well.
Is that tracking of metrics?
Yeah, tracking your key performance metrics. You might think, okay, my customer's going to be on Facebook, but until you test Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Amazon, etc., you might run those tests and then find, wow, YouTube is actually performing better than Facebook is. But you don't know that unless you're tracking all of your metrics. You don't know how many people are coming to your website versus how many people are actually purchasing, or the people that are coming to your website, how often do they need to come to your website before they make a purchase? And do you know what I mean? All of these things, as much kind of things that you can track, that is, that you're able to track, it really does help, especially when you're spending money on advertising, and when you're small and you're trying to grow. You want to make sure that your spend is spent in the right place. So there's no point spending money on Facebook if YouTube or Google's getting much better conversions. Other than marketing, it's literally managing the supply chain and tracking your progress.
Even two things, and that's something I really like to teach a lot of my my mentees or businesses that I coach. Is there's something called the balanced scorecard method, which just lets someone look at the business not only from the financial perspective, but there's other parts of it, right? There's the people, there's their learning and growth, there's your internal processes, and there's the customers, right? So if you're able to track, like as you said, key performance metrics across all of those bits, the chances of you succeeding in business, or at least spotting where things are going wrong, is so much higher, because if you're only focusing on the cash, right, but the people doing the actual value creation are burnt out.
Yeah.
Those troubles. So the earlier you can spot these things holistically across the business, the better. But I did want to ask you, right? So everyone has a supply chain, whether digital or physical, and it's not something that everyone immediately knows how to handle, right? You've got safety stock or like reorder points or minimum order quantity. So what advice do you have for anyone really like that's dealing with a supply chain? Like, how can they really start to get ahead of the curve rather than be reactive at the beginning?
Well, one of the things that we've learned recently with the whole COVID situation is trying to make your supply chain as streamlined as possible. So previously, like, we was getting different components from different places, largely because I had a vision in my mind of how I wanted things to be. So it had to be like, that's what I wanted, but it's actually much more efficient if you can streamline that as much as possible. Again, in the very early stages, sometimes you have to kind of make some concessions, because one of the biggest challenges that we faced initially was the minimum order quantities. So a lot of the manufacturers that we were speaking to at the time had very large minimum order quantities that was out of our range at the time. So we had no choice but to find a smaller manufacturer.
Okay.
So because we found a smaller it was difficult because we wanted to find a smaller manufacturer, but we didn't want to have any downside when it comes to product quality. Yeah. So find a smaller manufacturer who can work with a smaller company, but also still have the same standards as that we're trying to maintain was difficult. And so as a result of that, because we was working with a smaller company, we didn't have as streamlined a supply chain as possible, because their what they could do was a little bit more specialist. So in that case, sometimes you might not have an option but to have like a supply chain where some things are coming from different places. Luckily, the small company that we started working with actually got bought by a larger company. So as we were growing, they were also growing. So it's like now they've been able to streamline a lot of stuff for us, and we've been able to stick with the same manufacturers, and we're kind of growing together. It's really
that's amazing.
And literally, like when I first began, so when I first opened the barbershop, I sold my car. I saved up all of my salary for like about a year or so. Wow. And then I got a startup loan for $5,000 from the government. And that was my startup seed. That was my seed money. That was my first round. Do you know what I mean? So it was and that allowed me to just create the first iteration of the products, the first iteration of the website, and get a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And without that proof of concept, I wouldn't have been able to go to the next stage of development. I wouldn't have been able to get interest from other investors or interest from anyone really.
It doesn't have to be pretty at the beginning. It can get pretty, but it doesn't have to start that way. It just has to solve the problem, right? Like you said, the proof of concept doesn't have the features to do what I needed to do. Yep, cool. Yeah. Let's start moving a bit. It's interesting.
Actually, if you go and look at the first version of Facebook right now, you'll be like, what is this?
That's even a funny thing, like Airbnb, right? What did they do? I think they bought I don't know if it was like 3 mattresses or something like that, made like a really crappy website. Just to test out, will people live in on?
It was, they started super budget. Budget. So
it's possible. Probably 1 or 2 final questions.
Okay, cool.
So it's easy to really talk about the high points, the successes, right? But was there like a low point in your journey where you thought, I don't know if we're going to make it out of this one, and you just thought about giving up? Did you have that experience in your journey?
I have. I'm trying to think of when it was that I had that feeling. I know I've had that feeling plenty of times. I'm trying to think of what was it. What was it that caused it? I think sometimes what causes it is having expectations that are, I don't want to say unrealistic, but sometimes you set an expectation in your head without data and then get upset when you don't hit that target. So there's a big difference between what's possible and what's probable. And in the internet age that we live in, when you see so much, snake oil salesman that's like, I turned over 3 million in a week and you can do it too. And then you see all of these things, or you see the odd company or brand who did launch in a week and sold 10 million, because it does happen. And then that can sometimes create unrealistic expectations for yourself. And then when you set those unrealistic expectations and you don't meet them, it's very easy to beat yourself up about it. But the reality is that 7 out of 10 businesses fail. So the fact that you might not have sold 10 million, but the fact that you've sold something and that your business is actually still here is an achievement in itself. So even when I do have moments, or when I have had moments where I've kind of, felt like giving up, I try what helps me in those moments is putting things into perspective, looking at the bigger picture and understanding delayed gratification. Just because I want things to move at this certain speed doesn't mean that that's the speed that things are going to move at. But the question that you need to ask yourself is, are things moving? And if things are moving, then you're doing something right. How can you improve what you're doing right and do more of it, what you're doing right, to move faster? And so to answer the question, whenever I get into these kind of little ruts, that's kind of how I negotiate with myself to get out of it pretty quickly. So it's hard for me to recall certain instances because I try my hardest not to dwell on anything.
Exactly. No, it makes complete sense, which is actually it's quite a good mentality to have, right? So you're not dwelling on it, but you know that for each low point, you found a way to kind of get you out of it and keep moving. So yeah, that's an even better answer to my question. Low points are part of the game. Like, we don't talk about it much, but they're a very present part of it. So, actually having the remedies towards it, probably even more so helpful than really just looking at it and be like, this is what it was. So, great. Yeah. And I guess the final question right now to end it is, just what advice would you give to someone that probably they've been through the testing a bit, they've got their prototype or MVP and they're ready to hit the market? Like, what's the number one piece of advice you'd give them? I would say the number one piece of advice is to work on your mindset. If you go into it understanding that you're going to face challenges, you're more prepared for it. Understanding that no matter how much you plan, you're still going to get bumps in the road and things there's unknown unknowns. I always go into everything with that mindset, so that when I do hit issues, not saying I never get triggered or stressed or anything like that, I certainly do, but I'm able to battle through anything like that. So I would say if you're going out there, don't let limiting beliefs stop you from going out there. It's very, very easy to fall into negative self-talk, limiting beliefs. See, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you. That's been great. I've learned a lot. I know a lot more people are going to learn. And thanks, Aaron.
Thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it.